All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about how you can make the most of your summer and how you can still build skills and experiences that employers want. We understand that many of you are moving into uncharted territory this summer as you have had internships that have been canceled. Crystal, can you go back to the first slide? Thank you. As you have had internships that have been canceled or summer experiences that have not gone the way that you have planned. Perhaps your research experience or your on-campus job has been canceled. And so we just want to talk with you a little bit today about how you can still make the most of your summer and how you can still add value to your resume this summer and prepare yourself for entering the fall semester. So my name is Lindsay Luciano. I'm going to be giving this presentation today in conjunction with my colleague, Crystal Wittmeyer. We are career consultants. We both work with graduate students in the College of Engineering, and we are with the CPDC, which is Carnegie Mellon's main career center. I understand that we might have some Heinz students or Tepper students joining us today. Welcome. You may have other career centers and other career consultants that you normally work with. So please take our information today, and then if you can meet with one of your career consultants over the summer, that would be fantastic. And Crystal, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Crystal Wittmeyer, and I am excited to be here and to also talk with you about making the most of your summer and developing skills and experiences that employers want. So thank you, Lindsay.
You're very welcome. All right, let's move on to our agenda. So today we are going to be talking about a number of things. First, we're going to start off with how to assess your skills. Then we're going to move into setting goals for developing new skills and for working on current skills so that you can make sure that you are doing something valuable this summer, even if you're doing something unexpected or unanticipated. We also want to make sure that we go over how to manage your time. In this new uncharted territory, it can be very difficult to manage our time. And so we're going to go over some tips and tricks for how to do that successfully. I'm going to give you a bit of a summer roadmap. So I will walk you through how to prepare for your job search and for your career each month of the summer. I will also go over some networking basics and share with you the things to keep in mind as you are networking this summer. And finally, I will be doing a review of career resources, and I will go over where they are located and how to access them.
All right. So we know that all of you someday have that dream career that you want. Some of you might be a little undecided, but for the most part, you're at CMU and you have a career interest in mind. Some of you might be graduating in December, some in May, some maybe in a couple years, depending on what program you're in. Either way, though, today we really want to talk to you about how to be intentional with your summer that's been given to you. And one thing that you want to think about is when there is a goal down the road that you really want, or there's something that you really want in the future, what's always important before you just dive right in, sometimes we do dive right in, but before you dive right in, what's really important is to take a step back and to think about what it is that you need to get there. And so for the purpose of this presentation, we are going to talk about how to assess your skills for those future goals that you have, specifically around a future job that you're interested in. So before planning your summer specifically, we're going to talk to you about how to assess the skills that are needed for those jobs that you're most interested in. We encourage you to start by looking up jobs that you're really interested in and looking at the skills that are needed to get into that type of work, or the skills to get hired, or the skills to be successful in that type of job. We also will encourage you to network with industry professionals and find out from them what skills are needed to do that job, or what skills are needed to be successful in that type of job. So before being able to actually assess the skills that you have, we encourage you to look up job descriptions and talk with industry professionals about what is actually needed to be successful or to get that type of job that you want. So first, you're going to write down, or we encourage you to write it down. So when you're looking at a job description or talking with somebody, write down what skills you actually have. What are the skills that you currently have? And then you want to take a look at, what are the skills that I'm missing? Where do I need to develop? What do I need to develop? What are my areas of opportunity if I really want this type of job? And then you want to also think about or look at the skills that might be transferable or that might overlap with other career paths, whether in the industry or maybe in a similar industry. These are skills I'm going to explain in just a moment, but these are skills that are needed for any type of career that you go into. All right, so looking at a sample job description, this isn't a full description, but a part of one for a systems engineer, for example. So usually when you look at a job description, you'll see what you'll do. So that's the job responsibilities, for example. And then you'll also see what you'll bring or what you need to bring. So those could be the requirements or the qualifications. So what we wanted to show you was the difference between what transferable skills are and technical skills are, because they're going to be both important to continue developing this summer. So in red, you will see the transferable skills. So that could be management. It could be teamwork. So working with developers is teamwork. It could be analysis, or maybe it's critical thinking, communication, that could be written or oral. And so those are all types of transferable skills that all employers are looking for, no matter what your industry is. And next, technical skills you'll find in the blue. And technical skills are more of what you're learning in the classroom or what you're learning in a book. Transferable skills are learned more by doing. Technical skills, of course, you always need to apply what you're learning in the classroom, and you will always develop more as you are able to use the technical skills you're learning in the classroom. But technical skills are more things that you're learning out of books and in the classroom or online. And so that could be proficiency in MATLAB or Simulink, developing controllers and tuning controllers, and then you will see the others listed. So those are technical skills. All of these skills are important in becoming a systems engineer. So what we would encourage you to do is to take a job description like this, and as you assess, you can underline the skills that you absolutely know you already have, and then you can circle those that, those are some skills I need to develop, or those are some skills that are an area of opportunity for me. And so that's just, that's going to be a great way to get started on thinking about what it is that you need to develop in order to reach your future career goals. So next, once you've identified the areas of opportunity or those skills that you need to develop, you need to think about how you're going to develop those skills. And then from there, you're going to set goals to achieve those goals, or you're going to set goals to achieve throughout the summer. So while you're talking to industry professionals, while you're networking with them, besides just asking them about what skills they have or what's needed for that type of career that you want to go into, it's really important for you to ask how they've developed these skills in the past. What would they recommend for you? What is it that they did to get to where they are? Ask about training, certifications, expanding your libraries. They have a lot of resources, and this could be employers, this could be alumni, classmates, your professors. Ask around, because there might be a lot of resources that you aren't aware of that are out there, both free and maybe some for pay. but a lot of opportunities. And then you'll also want to think about hands-on experiences or additional experiences that will help you develop these skills. So you could look into research opportunities or campus employment, although it will most likely be virtual, but that is just as great. Online courses or certifications, courses at CMU this summer, academic projects through your program or through courses, independent projects. So this could, I know you're all passionate about different things. So if there's something that you've been really wanting to do, go ahead and do it. And that is something that you could add to your portfolio or possibly even to your resume someday. And then there's alternative options. So this looks differently for students, but some of you are able to work part-time. Some of you can volunteer. And we encourage you to think about also the skills that you do have. How can you use them to benefit others? So not only thinking about how you can develop this summer, but based on the skills you have or that you want to develop even more, what are some ways that you can benefit or impact others in the community, in our nation, in the world? We all know there's a lot going on right now, and they need people with particular skills to make an impact. And so that could also be a way that you spend your summer. What employers are going to be looking for later, we're encouraging you to make the most of your summer, not only to develop skills and to develop personally and professionally, but we want to help you not have a gap in your resume. We want you to be able to have talking points with these employers when you start interviewing, to be able to talk about this difficult time in our nation and in our world, when they might ask you straight up how you spent your time during the COVID-19 season. And so if you're able to talk about taking initiative to develop your skills, taking initiative to be involved in the community and offer your skills to impact others, that is great and very valuable to employers. So think about that as well. And then last, once you have an idea of what you need to develop, how you want to develop it, then you'll want to develop SMART goals. Okay, so some of you may have heard of what a SMART goal is. Some of you might not have. But the formula for a SMART goal is basically so you're not just writing down very broad goals. I want to learn MATLAB, or I want to develop skills to be a software engineer. You want to have goals that are actually specific, measurable, attainable or actionable, relevant, and timely. So I have an example for you that I'm going to give you, and then we're going to walk through what each of this, what this means, and hopefully it'll guide you on how to do this on your own. So my example is learn MATLAB for future systems engineer applications by taking X number of courses. So let's say by taking 2 courses online through Coursera by July 1st, 2020. So that's my example. So first, a goal should be specific. You should always start with an action or have an action involved. So my action is I want to learn. And then you want to think about who, what, where, when, and why. There might not always be a who, what, where, when, and why, but you want to think about each of those. So I'm going to say, what? I want to learn MATLAB. How do I want to do that? Through Coursera. Where do I want to do this? Online. And when? By July 1st. And then a goal should be measurable. So this is just a way to say, did I complete my goal? Can I check it off? Have my skills enhanced from point A to point B, or before I took this course to after. And so, of course, this one's a little easier. You can test your knowledge pre and post, or maybe the online course has an online test you take at the end. But really, it's did you complete the course, and hopefully you learned something from it. Next is actionable or even attainable. And so this is the goal that you have in mind, is it challenging, but yet realistic? Is it reasonable? It's not too far-fetched or something that you would never actually be able to do. So for this example, I would say you would think about, are the resources reasonable, or the time to finish reasonable? So with Coursera, there are free options, free modules, free courses, but there's some paid too. So, you might have to tweak your goal based on, is it reasonable? Do I need to look into other options? Do I need to add more time to complete what I want to do? And then R for relevant. So you all have big picture goals. You have a goal in mind of what career you might want down the road. SMART goals are really important to make little goals with. So a goal doesn't always have to be big. It's actually, what's more impactful is to make little goals to reach your big goal. So when you're setting your goals, make sure they're relevant to the bigger goal. So these little goals, what you're working on, is it relevant to becoming a systems engineer, right? It's good to set little goals for personal development too, but it really should be relevant to something else that you're working towards. And then T, timely or time bound. Make sure there's time involved. So a deadline of July 1st. It doesn't always have to have a deadline per se. That's always helpful. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But it could also be that you want to network with 2 professionals 30 minutes each time per week. So it could be timely in that way, that I'm going to talk to 2 professionals for 30 minutes each once per week. And then that's something at the end that you can measure. Did you do it? Was it reasonable? Was it specific? So that's another way to make sure that you are setting a goal to be time bound. And then next, we're going to talk about managing your time. So this whole purpose of the presentation is how to help you be intentional with your time, not just this summer, but every day and every week. We want to encourage you to develop deadlines for the goals that you're going to set in the beginning of the summer. What's really going to be helpful is for you to make weekly and daily to-do lists ahead of time. Now, to-do lists can get a little overwhelming, as we know. So don't write down everything that you're going to work on. That might be too much. But write down at the beginning of each week, what do you absolutely want to accomplish? What is the most important? Prioritize. And then at the beginning of each day, sit down and say, what do I absolutely want to accomplish today? What is the most important to accomplish today? And we also encourage you to use a calendar or a planner. So yes, we're talking about how to schedule time to develop your skills this summer, but you do have a lot more time now that classes are over. So we want to encourage you to use that time for other things too. So in order to not burn out and get stuck spending a whole day on job applications or a whole day on developing one skill, using a calendar or planner, so that way you can plan some fun activities, some reading, some networking, some skill development, some career preparation throughout your day. So again, so just to go into that a little bit more, we want you to schedule time for developing your skills, but also career preparation. Whether you're graduating in December, May, or in a couple years, you should always be working towards your career, always updating your resume, always practicing interviewing, always networking. And Lindsay's going to tell you a lot about that in just a little bit. We encourage you to take care of yourself. You've had some stressful semesters, I would assume, with challenging classes and late nights or not a lot of sleep, or COVID-19 and going remote. So take care of yourself and think of ways that you can really take care of yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever that looks like for you. Get involved with hobbies that you already have, new hobbies. Make sure you spend time reading. It's really important to always be active and continuing to learn. And that could be something fun. It could be something in your industry. Keep your brain active. Connecting with others, that could be friends or family, and that could also be networking, which again, Lindsay's going to talk about shortly. So think of ways to spend this time connecting with others. Learning a language. I know a lot of you have multiple languages already or can speak multiple languages already. Add another one. We have Duolingo right here in Pittsburgh. That app is wonderful. But those of you who have English as a second language, this is a great time to continue practicing your English in preparation for future interviews or future presentations. That's going to be critical. So practice with friends, practice in online groups, practice presenting and reading. So these are just some other ways that you can really be productive with your time and make the most of your summer outside of just developing your skills. And we also encourage you to just be in a daily routine to ensure that you're being productive and that you're developing every day. And so that means don't sleep until 1 o'clock and stay in your PJs all day watching Netflix or staying up all through the night. Really get into a routine to take care of yourself. And again, I think having that calendar and a planner and to-do list will really help you to stick with a routine that is healthy and that's going to challenge you to make the most of every single day. And now I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so I am going to talk with you about looking at your summer as if you're on a journey. I'm going to give you a roadmap of things that you should be doing immediately in June, in July, in August, and into the fall. And I would also like to just take a minute to say that after the presentation today, we are going to email out the slides, and we're also going to email out a summer roadmap handout. We have a checklist that you can go through to kind of check off some things that you can be doing each month this summer, whether it's setting your goals, scheduling time for your skill development, etc. So please make sure that you pay attention to your email. We will be emailing this out after the presentation today. All right, next slide, please. Great. So the summer roadmap, I'm going to go over in depth what you can be doing each month during the summer. So immediately you can begin reviewing modules in the career preparation course in Canvas if you are a graduate student in the College of Engineering. If you are an undergraduate, your career preparation material would be in Career Launch. If you are a Hines student or a Tepper student, your materials might live on your websites. And most of this material also lives on the CPDC website. If you have questions or you cannot find these materials, email your career consultant. The materials that I am referring to include a resume guide, a cover letter guide, a LinkedIn profile checklist, tips and tricks for networking and drafting professional communication. So in the next week or week and a half, you have time to review those materials in depth and read through them. Once you get into the middle of a busy season or once we get back into the fall, you might not have time to read through some of the materials, and some of them are very lengthy. So take some time now in the next week or week and a half to go through the resume guide, all of the guides that we have. And that takes us right into June, the next month of the summer. In June, you will want to make sure that you are researching employers and potential jobs, and you'll want to be networking. So we recommend that you keep track of companies that you want to work for. So you might want to look up companies. Maybe you keep this in an Excel sheet. You want to look up competitors to these companies so that you can build a list of potential companies that you are interested in working for. And that will also help you to determine who to network with. In addition to researching companies, we want to make sure that you're also researching jobs that interest you. So earlier in the presentation, Crystal gave you a sample job description. She pulled that job description to show you how to read through a job description and how to identify skills that you'll need to work on over the summer, or where you will need to update or tailor your resume. So we found that job description by going into Career Shift, and then we searched for jobs. You can be searching for jobs in Career Shift or in Handshake, probably first and primarily Handshake, or Career Shift, or LinkedIn. You want to make sure that as you're searching for jobs that you save all of the job descriptions. Be sure that you copy and paste this into a Word document, because once a position is filled, a company will typically pull that description from the website and then it's no longer available. Now, networking. I've mentioned that you'll want to begin networking with industry professionals. So you will want to reach out to people in your desired industry and ask if you can conduct what we call an informational interview. An informational interview is when you ask someone for a few minutes of their time to pick their brain, to ask them questions, ask about trends in that industry, ask about what it's like to work for that particular employer. If they are a Carnegie Mellon alum, you can ask about recommendations they have for your final semester in your program, or recommendations they have for right after you graduate. So networking can be a little bit daunting, but if you break it down, you can just start out by asking some very basic questions to build that connection. That takes us into July. In July, you'll want to make sure that you continue networking. You'll want to attend virtual opportunities, update your application materials and any websites that you have, such as LinkedIn, Handshake, or a portfolio website. You'll also want to meet with your career consultant in July. So if it helps for you to have a specific number to keep you on track, you can do that. Maybe you need to mark down that you will spend 2 hours per week on networking. Great. Do an hour on Wednesdays, an hour on Sundays. Perfect. If that's what you need, that can be very helpful. We also recommend that you look into virtual opportunities all summer long. So we will be doing more of these virtual workshops and webinars. There will also be virtual job fairs that you can attend without going anywhere. You can just do it from the comfort of your own home on your laptop. So make sure that you are logging into Handshake, that you are looking up virtual opportunities. You can take a look at one of our external resources called Hallo to look for additional opportunities. So make sure that in July you are looking for those and when they occur and marking them on your calendar to attend virtually. We want to make sure that you're updating all of your materials throughout the summer. So in July, you should be updating your resume. You should be updating your Handshake or LinkedIn profile. If you have a portfolio online, you want to update that too. Don't wait until the end of August, because if someone wants to see your materials sooner, you want to make sure that you're constantly updating those materials. Again, if you need a number, maybe you need to tell yourself you're going to spend 15 minutes per day, or you're going to spend 2 hours per week. Whatever number works for you, you can go ahead and do that and then mark it accordingly in your calendar. Also in July, I mentioned you can meet with your career consultants. So we typically have a little more time over the summer to meet with students. If you would like to have your full-time application materials reviewed, if you just want a LinkedIn profile review, if you have questions about networking, that's what we are here for. You can schedule with us in Handshake. And again, some of you in our meeting today might not be from the College of Engineering, so your career consultant might be elsewhere. Maybe they are in Tepper or in Hines or with I&I, so you can schedule with your career consultant appropriately, but all of us should have availability all summer long. And that finally takes me into August. So in August, you will want to continue networking and attending virtual opportunities, prepare for future interviews, apply to jobs of interest, and follow up with job applications. So in August, continue networking. Networking takes a while, so you'll be doing a little bit of it all summer long. You'll want to continue participating in virtual sessions or fairs that you have found. Preparing for future interviews is a big one. You can use the resource called Big Interview. It lives in Handshake, and Big Interview is a wonderful resource to help you practice for future interviews. You can also schedule a mock interview with your career consultant. That is something that we do. In August, you can begin applying to jobs of interest. Again, pay attention to the language on those jobs. If it says immediate need and you're not graduating until December or May, then you need to pay close attention to that. But in August, generally speaking, you can begin applying to some jobs of interest. And you'll want to make sure that you keep track of everything that you're doing and follow up with job applications, and that's where networking can come into play. If you have not heard back in a few weeks, but you have been networking with someone at that company, you could follow up to find out if they are still hiring for the position or if the position is still available. And those are things that you can be doing right into the fall semester. All right, and the next slide, please. Okay, so I've mentioned networking a lot. For some of you who have never done networking before, you might be very overwhelmed. Maybe this is a new concept for you. And then there's probably some of you who have been doing it and maybe it's not going well, or maybe it's been frustrating to you. So I'm gonna break it down and just give you some very basic 101 tips. So first, let's start with alumni and other known contacts. Everyone should be able to go to the LinkedIn link for Carnegie Mellon University and then click on alumni. I have put the link here on the screen. You can type that directly into your browser. That will take you to the alumni page for Carnegie Mellon. In there, you can search for alumni based on program. So you can type in the name of your degree and find alumni from your program who have graduated and are out there in the world working. Or you can search for alumni based on geographic location, if you wanted to go to a particular place, for example. So start with trying to find people to build that connection with. We want you to use the platforms LinkedIn, Handshake, and CareerShift to identify these connections. Don't forget, Handshake has the capability for you to network with students at other schools. So you can try to look up students who have maybe done an internship at your dream company, and you can reach out to them to ask how their internship was, if it was a worthwhile experience, if it was a company they would be willing to work for, or if they never want to talk to them again. So you can use all of those platforms to try to make connections and reach out to people with simple questions. I mentioned earlier setting up informational interviews to ask questions or learn about opportunities. So informational interviews are just that, to gain information. Maybe you have questions about a company culture or a trend in that industry, or what that industry has struggled with and faced during this current pandemic. That's a great opportunity for you to reach out and ask those questions. When you are doing informational interviews, you should not ask for a job. The point of an informational interview is just to build a connection and gain information. If those go well, if that connection builds over time, that could potentially lead to a job. But the purpose of the informational interview is just to gain information and see if there is a connection there to build. When you are networking, make sure that you're using professional language, that you are following up appropriately, so not too often, not too aggressively. I would recommend following up at least 1 or 2 weeks apart from your previous communication, and focus on making the connection and learning. So again, you're trying to build that connection. You're trying to find out information or find out answers to questions that you have, but you're not asking for too much. You're not being so direct that you're asking for a job. And if you are networking and it's not going well and no one is responding to you, you have a 0% response rate, please reach out to your career consultant and set up an appointment with us. We have appointments all the time where we go over networking with students and we look at some sample communication that you're sending, and we take a look at what may be going well or what may be not going well. Don't forget, we also have professional communication and networking resources, again, on our websites. So if you cannot find that information, reach out to us and we will point you to the right location. All right, and finally, that brings us to a review of some of the resources that you have access to as a Carnegie Mellon student. So first of all, we have lots of materials for each of your career materials. So there is a resume guide for graduate students. There's a resume guide for undergraduate students. So make sure that you are looking at the correct resume guide, but we have those for Carnegie Mellon students. We also have a cover letter guide. Again, there's one for graduates and one for undergraduates. We have a LinkedIn profile checklist that will help you go over your LinkedIn page to make sure that you have everything that's necessary on there and nothing that is unnecessary. These materials either live in Canvas, in Career Launch, or on your particular career website, depending on what college you are a part of. So if you are having trouble finding these materials, please reach out to us and we will point you to the appropriate links. One of the most important things I wanted to show you today that I really hope everyone goes there right now is to this resource library. So go ahead and type that link into your browser. That is the resource library in Handshake. When you go into the resource library in Handshake, it's going to link you directly to a number of really fabulous resources. Big Interview is in there. Big Interview is very helpful for practicing for an interview. And especially now, as most interviews are virtual, Big Interview will help you prepare for a virtual interview and will show you what it's like to be recorded on your laptop answering a question. Career Shift is invaluable. We love Career Shift. So you'll definitely be using that to search for jobs, to search for contacts, and to look up email addresses to begin some of your networking. Going Global is a really fabulous resource for anyone who is either looking for opportunities overseas or an international student looking at companies within the US to get an idea for whether or not they have ever sponsored international candidates in the past. So please make sure that you're using Going Global if you need that information. VMOC is a virtual resume reviewing software. Every Carnegie Mellon student has access to it because we purchased a subscription for Carnegie Mellon students. So make sure that you are logging in there. You get 10 uploads for your resume per academic year. What you can do is upload your resume and then VMOC will go through it and give you a virtual review with some feedback of things to improve or areas where you can build to make your resume a rock star resume. Versatile PhD is another great resource for PhD students. So if you are a PhD student listening in today, please make sure that you check that out. And then there's also an external resource link in there as well that will take you to a number of other resources that do not live in Handshake. So Inside Sherpa, Hallow, D&B Hoover's research library. All of those are really fabulous as well. And so you can spend some time going through there to see what kind of resources exist and how to access them and how to use them. As always, if there's a resource in there that you don't understand or you're having trouble navigating, please reach out to your career consultant. We have appointments all the time where we do screen sharing. We walk you through how to use a resource, how to log in, what tabs to click on, what things to search for. We're happy to do that. So please do take advantage of our services over the summer. If you find yourself very unmotivated or spinning in circles or you just don't know where to start, that's what we are here for. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentation today. So at this time, we can go ahead and take questions. If you would like to enter your question into the chat, I can go ahead and begin to answer some questions. And just as a final reminder, we will be sending out an email to everyone that joined us today with the slides of our presentation, as well as a handout with a summer roadmap to help you navigate things to do this summer to keep you on track so that you can continue your job search and continue networking as we move closer to fall. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And if you got everything you need, you're welcome to go. And if you want to stick around and listen to Q&A, we'll take questions in the chat at this time. All right, we have a question here that says, can we start applying for full-time jobs right now if I am going to graduate this December? You can apply for full-time jobs right now. It is a little early, and given the current circumstances, we find that employers are not necessarily hiring 8 or 9 months out right now. So pay attention to the language in job descriptions. If the language says it's an immediate need or they're looking for someone in the next 2 months or the next 3 months, then that opportunity might not be appropriate. But if the opportunity says it is for a December 2020 graduate, then yes, that could be an appropriate opportunity to apply for. So just pay attention to the language that's in the job description. Are there any other questions at this time? All right, there are a few questions coming in. One of the students has asked a question that says, would we advise graduating in December or May if given the choice, taking the current situation into consideration? I would recommend that you reach out to your academic advisor and talk with your academic advisor first. After you have that conversation, then I would reach out to your career consultant and go over your specific situation with your career consultant. All right, we have a question here on the Coursera certification courses. Marcy or Crystal, would either of you feel comfortable taking that?
Marcy, did you want to touch on that, or would you like me to?
Sure, I'm happy to touch on it. So from a Coursera perspective, that's not necessarily something employers are looking for. They're more looking at the skill sets that you have in your skills section, the actual applied skills that you have in projects. If a Coursera course would give you an additional project experience that you may not otherwise have, it could be worth considering. Otherwise, you can do an independent project on your own to gain similar experience. So we never encourage paying for additional courses. Of course, you're at CMU, you're getting lots of good experience, and that's already a significant expense for many of you. We don't see that it's extra paid attention to by employers, but it's not going to hurt anything. So it's really up to you, and if you have the time to do it. As Lindsay and Crystal mentioned, there's lots of free opportunities on Coursera or other sites that you could consider as well. But I don't think that employers are going to be looking or placing extra value on if you have a certification from Coursera. They're most concerned about the skills that show up in your skills section, what you can actually accomplish in a technical interview, and the examples of your skill set through the project work that you have on your resume. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, we have another question. Do you have any specific advice as to what rising sophomores should do during the summer? I'm happy to answer that. Is that okay?
Go for it, Crystal.
All right. We specifically work with the graduate students, but it is very, all of this is very transferable to all of you. Rising sophomores, again, everything that we talked about would be beneficial for you to be doing this summer. Instead of, you might not be working towards a full-time job per se yet, but it's developing little goals to reach that bigger goal. So if you're not doing a summer internship, as you all know, that there's requirements and qualifications for getting internships. So maybe it's doing some of these things that we talked about today as a goal to get an internship for next summer, right? And so I would encourage you to still look at all those experiences we talked about to get hands-on experience, develop your knowledge. You want to do something that you'll be able to talk about with employers in the future. You want to do something that's going to be a skill set that you work on that's related to your career interests. So I hope that helps. It is very similar and transferable for you too as a sophomore.